Hey guys, welcome back to Annie's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we are going to take a look at a very old Schleich figure, and it is one that I was actually quite persistent in acquiring because I didn't have it, and I always did want to get a hold of it once I found out about it. It is the Schleich Ouranosaurus, and it was really kind of a pain to get a hold of because it's so old and so rare that it goes for a decent amount of money most times, but I was lucky enough to stumble upon it on eBay and nobody else bid on it, so I did get it. I don't remember how much, it was quite a little while ago now, but I did get it for a pretty decent price and I was quite happy overall. Looking at it here in person, it's not a terrible figure. Of course it's not accurate by any means. It's a very old figure. You could tell straight away the inaccuracies just by the fact that it's in a tripod position and clearly walking along two legs and dragging its tail on the ground is going to tell you straight away that accuracy is not something you can question when it comes to this figure. But I think that doesn't really take away from the figure too much because I love beautiful vintage dinosaur figures, and that is exactly what this Schleich Ouranosaurus is, so let's go ahead and get a closer look at it right now. So taking a look up here at the head sculpt again, being an older figure from Schleich, you're not going to see the most beautifully detailed or the most appealing figure, but personally I think it looks very, very fun. Again, it's kind of ugly if you're looking for something that would be more modern, more scientifically accurate for an Ouranosaurus, but when it comes to what one would have looked like in a book or something that I would have seen as a child, I think this is a pretty good example of that. The detailing of the face is pretty decent. There's not too much detailing going on, but you can definitely get a sense of some nice bone structure in the skull and also a sense of some nice skin texture, along with a few different variations of color included. It looks like a lot of the color here has been worn off. I don't know entirely for sure if this was all black at one time, but I would think that it was, and I think if all of that darker paint was still included, it would be pretty darn appealing in that section of the head sculpt, but I may actually touch that up and try to get that looking a little better at some point in the very near future. You can see the eyes are painted kind of decent, I guess. This eye over here looks actually kind of sloppy, but if we get over here to this eye, you can see this eye looks a good bit better, and as I turn it, you can definitely see some nice gloss added to the eye to give it a pretty realistic eye shine. As we lead back here into the neck, you can see lots of skin creasing going on in the neck. As we lead down into the shoulder area of the dinosaur, the skin texture looks decent enough. As we move down as well, you can take note to the shoulder blade there, along with some skin reacting to the movement of the arm. As we lead down the arms, the skin texture continues to look fairly decent. There's not too much as far as muscle tone or anything to be seen on the dinosaur. A few nice creases in the elbow area. The hands look alright, a little pudgy, but I think they look decent enough. Actually, this right hand looks pretty good, but the left hand looks a little swollen for some reason. It almost looks like he was stung by a bee and might be having an allergic reaction, but the sculpting of the claws and the painting of the claws looks to be half decent, I guess. Moving back up into the body, once again, the skin texture looks pretty good. You can again see some more movement of the skin portrayed right there, and I really do like the transition between that brownish coloration to the lighter underbelly. It is really nice and smooth and very natural. And speaking of transitions, I also like the transition between that darker brown to this kind of lighter goldish brown that sort of highlights the sail of the Ouranosaurus, and it does look really, really nice and definitely very natural in my opinion. I do like the skin texture and the detailing of that sail-like area of the Ouranosaurus as well. Some fairly decent muscle definition back here in the thigh of the dinosaur. Moving down, you also have a nice calf muscle. The detailing of the leg overall isn't the greatest. You can see the kneecap there, and the foot sculpt is there. It's just not very good. It's pretty sloppy, pretty ugly. Nothing in comparison to what we would see probably nowadays from a Schleich figure, but then again, actually, even that is kind of hit or miss, so we really have no idea. Then once we lead out the tail, you can see the skin texture looks pretty decent. Again, nice transitioning between colors from the brown to the lighter underbelly coloration that runs on the underneath of the tail. And then as we get closer to the tip of the tail, it transitions primarily just to this brownish coloration. The tail does look a little bit scrawny, but considering how inaccurate the figure is overall, I'm not too worried about it. The body is pretty much in a very neutral position overall, so you're not going to see too much difference when it comes to the sculpt on this side as opposed to the sculpt on the other side. It looks very, very similar, pretty much just the same, but I think it looks fun. It's not the most appealing figure that you're ever going to find, but personally, again, like I said, I love a good vintage figure, and this is exactly what I see with this Schleich Ouranosaurus. As far as a size goes, from the tail to the tip of the snout, you're looking at about 7 inches, maybe a little over, more like almost 7¼ inches, or around 18, almost 18.5 centimeters. And then for a height, just shy of 4 inches or 10 centimeters to the top of the head. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, Robert Muldoon in the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, next to our Ouranosaurus, and hopefully showing you that this is a pretty small figure. It's right around the Attack Pack size range, or actually maybe even a little bit smaller, because I think the Attack Pack here might be just a tad bigger. But again, decently sized, something that's not any type of a worry to take up too much room in your collection, and personally, I do really quite like it. So I have reviewed 2 Ouranosaurus figures here on the channel. The first was the Collect Day version, now we have the Schleich version, and honestly, both were pretty inaccurate for the most part, and both were kind of ugly, but at the same time appealing as far as I'm concerned. The fact that Ouranosaurus has had so little figures and models made of it is really mind-boggling to me. It's such a very cool and unique looking species that it just does not make any sense to me that it would be so underutilized when it comes to all these figure companies out there. So finding a good figure of this species is really quite a task. Now I know there is one from Geo World out there. I don't think that one's very good either, but I haven't really seen it in person, so I can't say for sure. And then we also have a Terabybatat version, which that one will be reviewed here on the channel very soon, which I would say is probably the best version of that dinosaur out there currently. But this one specifically, again, as far as looking like a very vintage old school style, is definitely pretty nice. It's not really anything that's uber appealing, and probably won't appeal to most if you are more of a modern, more up-to-date style collector. But if you're someone like me that appreciates vintage and modern dinosaurs and can pretty much appreciate any type of a dinosaur figure, then you really will find some very appealing factors to this dinosaur, because again, having the tripod position definitely means that it's got that vintage old school style, along with that dark color scheme also helps to give it that vintage style. I think this is honestly exactly the style of color that I would see on a dinosaur like this, and exactly the style of sculpt that I would have seen on a dinosaur like this when I was a child. So it is really appealing to me specifically because I grew up on that style of dinosaur. But if you are a younger collector, you probably won't share the same sentiment. However, I think the sculpt of the dinosaur is decent, not the best. I think the paint is also quite nice. It's at least very nicely applied, that's for sure, and includes some pretty realistic skin tone as far as the different colorations of browns used. But again, maybe not the figure for everyone. Regardless, if you do want to pick one up, your pretty much best bet would be eBay, because they're very hard to find and long discontinued. I will try to find one that I can include in the description for you to pick up, but again, I don't know exactly how expensive it will be. So check the description. If I have a link there, maybe you can pick this up. If not, happy hunting, and hopefully you'll acquire it when you do officially find one. Definitely pick it up if you like the old school vintage style dinosaur. Regardless, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.